You're listening to Three Kitchens, a member of the Alberta Podcast Network. Locally grown, community supported. Join your hosts, Aaron Walker, Sarah Somasundaram, and Heather Dyer to talk all about home cooking.
This episode of Three Kitchens is brought to you by the Northwest Fest International Documentary Festival, running in cinema from May 6th to the 14th and online from May 5th to the 15th. NWF is thrilled to finally be able to bring the festival back to Metro Cinema this year, with an outstanding lineup of some of the year's best docs and a few fun surprises.
This year's festival is a hybrid affair, with over 20 films screening at Metro Cinema, including the acclaimed Nick Cave music doc, This Much I Know to Be True, along with dozens of feature and short films screening online.
Award-winning filmmaker Alexandra O'Filippe will also be in town to present his filmmaking masterclass. This event will be open to the public and is an absolute must for anyone who's ever dreamed of making their own film. Check out the full Northwest Fest film lineup and purchase all-access passes or single tickets at northwestfest.ca.
Welcome to Three Kitchens, the podcast where we tell you about all the yummy things we're eating, and hopefully you're not at the grocery store at the time or your bill is going to go through the roof because suddenly you'll be like, why am I buying all these lemons and things? Like, what am I making?
Don't listen to us on an empty stomach, maybe?
Yeah.
Yes. Always my problem.
It's the podcast that inspires hunger, which,
Yes.
Maybe that's not so bad. I'm Heather Dyer. I'm here with my co-hosts, Sarah Somasundaram and Aaron Walker. Hi,
Hello,
guys.
hello.
Hello.
There we go.
This is our 1-year anniversary Three Kitchens podcast.
Happy anniversary, guys.
It's kind of exciting. Who knew when we started doing this? Well, actually, I didn't think we'd only do it for a few months. I kind of expected we'd hit a 1-year mark. But it is kind of still fun, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I'm so excited that we've jumped on this like crazy bandwagon and we're still riding it down the hill a year later.
It's been a lot of fun. We've had 50, I think we're on like 52 episodes or 53 episodes.
Yeah.
And it's been a journey. I mean, if you go back and listen to the way we recorded in the beginning and now, so many things have changed. We're being paid now.
Yeah, we joined a network,
Yeah.
which is really great.
The Alberta Podcast Network.
That's right. In our first episode, we mentioned that we're not professionals.
Maybe we should be clear, like at the beginning of this podcast, we are not professionally trained cooks. We are not professional cooks in any sense of the word, nor are we professional podcasters yet.
We still aren't professional.
Yes, we are.
Is that the
As
definition?
soon as you're paid for it, we're professionals.
All right,
I don't care
that's
what the
true.
definition says. That's what my definition says.
That's
so
what
I'm
her
going with
definition
that.
is.
She's using the noun professional, not the adjective of being professional.
We are
podcast.
probably not the most professional.
Speaking of professional and things changing over the past year, I wanted to ask you guys and the listeners to listen to a little clip from one of our episodes from season 1, Rum Challenge. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
Of course.
And Heather promises me something by year 3 that she thinks she's going to be able to do. She still hasn't achieved it.
I'd forgotten. Maybe that's why.
So let's take a listen.
Yes, please. I think I said your name wrong. I'm always worried I'm going to pronounce it
I'm worried
incorrectly.
too.
It is Somasundaram.
Somasundaram. I will get it probably in like year 3 of this. I will be saying it correctly.
Nobody really gets it. So you're forgiven.
Thank you. So I am still mispronouncing.
So you do have 2 more years because you did say year 3.
Oh shit.
So let's
I thought I was doing well.
Everything is correct, except it's not sun, it's sun.
Sun.
Somasundaram.
Oh gosh. She was just waiting
right,
today to
yes.
hear how I was going to say it too, to see if she could pull that one out.
I'm pretty sure, yep.
Please don't let her learn how to pronounce my name finally, when I'm going to use that as a segue into this clip.
Oh. I'll keep working on it. I promise.
You said you're 3, so you have time. You've given yourself time.
I'm glad I said that and not like, I'll get it by next episode. But that would have been too much. But I lived a big part of my life with the last name that nobody could ever pronounce, my maiden name. And so you'd think I would get it. Like I'd be kind of sensitive to that.
Or you've just given up.
Oh,
that happens too.
Well, clearly I didn't realize. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm going to work harder on that.
I'm not offended. I just thought it was funny as I was going through the episodes and I heard that clip and I'm like, oh, so going to use this one. This episode for sure.
Oh boy.
So we thought we'd go through and do a quick look back at some of our favorite episodes, let you know some of the episodes that we feel like we had the most fun in. We've done some updates on some of the recipes that we've shared, and then we'll probably just wrap it up with some general silly ridiculousness, because
some funny
that's
moments
what we are professionals at doing.
That's right. We're laughing at ourselves.
Yep. Having a good sense of humor at all the nonsense that has come out of this experience.
So who's going to go first with their favorite episode?
Erin, why don't you start us off? What was your favorite?
So I think one of my favorite episodes, I have a few, and I don't think any of us can pick one.
Right.
I'm going to talk about two things. One, just quickly, I want to mention that I got to cook a recipe with my Oma, and she taught me how to make a strudel, and it was really fun getting to just cook with family and share recipes with my grandmother. And it's just, there's nothing more special to me than cooking with family and doing that. And I think that is just such a special episode. For the episode I do want to talk about as my favorite episode, because I think it is hilarious and so funny, is the 11th episode of season 2 called Persimmon Puddin'.
That's also one of my favorites.
When I went back and listened to this again, I was laughing to myself.
It was so fun, that one. And just poor Shirley. If Shirley ever listened, the recipe writer, if she ever listened to it, she must think we are a bunch of fools. Because there was a lot of teasing Shirley, even though we don't know.
There was a lot of teasing Shirley. Yes. But in a nice way, Shirley.
Yeah,
yes.
it was a lot of fun.
I really liked the pudding Shirley, as I said before, Shirley.
we didn't really come to a good consensus on what the pudding result was.
So Erin, you pulled a clip from the Persimmon Puddin' episode for us to play.
Yeah.
Shirley, where was your description? 3 lines does not a recipe make. Come on. Where was she from again?
Halltown, Missouri.
Oh, Missouri, right.
Missouri.
So maybe in Missouri, they all know that this is a pudding. This is what they call pudding.
A pudding.
Missouri pudding.
Yeah, it was kind of mystery dessert.
It was good mystery dessert.
Oh, it was tasty. It definitely tasted good. I was just expecting something that was persimmony and pudding-like. Right. And I feel like both of those things were fail.
Right.
Yes.
But that's just because my definition and expectation was different than Shirley's definition, clearly.
We've offended everyone in
we've offended everyone in Missouri with our Missouri
with our terrible accents.
Yeah.
Were we drinking when we recorded that one? Because
I wonder if that was a night of drinking, because
that has happened a couple times.
High on sugar and persimmons.
Oh man,
that was such a fun one.
All of the vagueness in the recipe. I mean, we've all cooked with older recipes where they don't really explain things, and this was exactly that recipe. And going through that process and having a good laugh at all that, oh my gosh,
and Sarah and I both thought the pudding was going to be something complete,
we all thought it was going to be pudding,
not a cake.
I really wanted to have something that showcased what persimmons tasted like.
That's where we didn't quite come to a consensus.
And this is where the recipe flopped for me, and I think we just decided to blame it all on Shirley since it was her pudding.
Poor Shirley. It's not her fault.
Poor Shirley. We're picking on Shirley a bit, but you know what? Sometimes you gotta
take your lumps.
You have to displace the blame to somebody else.
Yep, you need a scapegoat.
Sometimes you need a scapegoat. So
listen, if your recipe is a bit, I don't know, like,
but it was a good pudding, you guys. It was a good pudding. It just didn't really. It could have been made with any fruit.
Yes, exactly.
It could have been made with anything.
Any fruit, I imagine.
We had different idea in our mind of what a pudding was going to be, and then when you delivered it to us and we opened it up and we were like, what is that?
Yeah. And we learned a lot about the persimmon, and
we learned that some questions just go unanswered. Yeah, like what does a persimmon taste like?
Sometimes you just have to let it be.
That was a lot of fun and a good recipe in the end, even though we didn't solve the question.
I think a good recipe in the end, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. My favorite episode that I did was definitely 100% date night. I think it was episode 21 in season 1. And this was not because it was a Roy Choi recipe. It was just a beautiful night. It had a great drink called a caipirinha. I got to hang out with my husband. The kids were downstairs in the basement watching shows. So it was just my husband and myself. We were having drinks. And we had a great meal with salsa verde, which happened to be from Roy Choi. But what I find also funny about this episode is how the conversation then turns a little naughty because Roy Choi was involved. And have a listen. It's Roy Choi and Sarah sitting in a food truck. What's a good word that rhymes with truck?
Sarah.
All right.
Wow.
This is where we're at today.
I meant luck.
So luck? Well, that would be lucky. That'd be lucky for Roy Choi, I tell you.
Your husband doesn't listen to this podcast, does he, Sarah? You may not want to tell him about this episode.
And it turned out to be a great date night. The food was fantastic. The drink was definitely something I'm making every summer, the caipirinha. And it was a hot night and it was perfect for that drink and the food.
Yes.
And that doesn't always happen here in Calgary, that you get a nice night to sit outside like that. So
it was like stars aligned.
That salsa verde was so good. In fact, I was just at the grocery store and noticed they had some tomatillos again. And I was like, oh, I should pick those up and make some salsa verde.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then we figured out that we could actually freeze those tomatillos because you char them anyway, right?
Oh,
so
that's right.
Yeah, I've made that numerous times. So, and I'm sure it's not the same every time. It's kind of like a little bit of what you've got handy and different ratios, and it's
totally
such a fun recipe to play with. And
you start eyeballing things.
I love it. Could drink it just about. Except you've got the caipirinha, which I really love to drink.
Well, you just drink your salsa with your caipirinha. Yeah. It's totally
double-fisted.
I see nothing wrong with that at all.
And it's always fun to tease Sarah about her celebrity crush, Roy Choi. That's always fun. Yeah. It's happened a few times. It's not just this episode.
No.
Well, that was the best one.
What about you, Heather?
Okay. One of my favorites was episode 9, right back in the beginning, and it was the macarons. Because it was something that I had long wanted to try, but I was super intimidated by, and I just thought, that looks like so much work and so complicated and so technical that I'm just not. But this was an excuse to do that. I'm like, well, it's for the podcast. I'm gonna finally try these little French cookies. And we had some fun discussions around all the trial and error that was involved in making them.
Yes.
And that sort of ambiguous descriptions of what the batter is supposed to be like the wet sand ribbons and
The
all
ribbons,
that.
yes,
Like,
I remember
what
that.
there was a lot of trial and error and fails along the way, and it was a lot of fun. And there was at one point we were laughing about who comes up with these kind of recipes. There's a little clip.
It just amazes me that someone
Mm-hmm.
developed a recipe like this. Like how,
Why? That's the question.
and who did this?
Yeah, like who comes up with this stuff?
Who does come up with this stuff?
It's not like it happened by accident, right? It's
No,
not
I
like
don't
one of
think
those
so.
like, oh, I mistakenly dropped this
Ribbons
into
Oh,
here
look.
and it worked out perfectly. Like, no, you're gonna stir that 10 times.
No, it was more like 16 times. Yeah. It was also fun because I surprised you guys with the finished cookies. I put them in a little box.
Yes.
And told you don't open them until we get, and it was like, I think,
The anticipation of the reveal
yeah,
was definitely like so good in that one. I loved
and you didn't
that.
quite know what you were going to get.
No, and after all the things that you had said, I half expected to open that box and see like a big fail in it, and they were beautiful.
That's the clip
remember
that I got it where Sarah says that.
They're so good. I really, I mean, with all the things that you said could go wrong, I actually kind of expected a box of gone wrong, but it's not. Like, it's delicious.
Yeah.
There we go.
I say the same thing a year later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and I still have not made them again, even though I was feeling all at the end of it. I'm like, yeah, I could probably do this again.
You know, when my kids see those at a bakery or at a store or even the Kleenex box that has the macarons on it, they always talk about yours because it was early days and I was still sharing food with my kids. That is long since passed.
Yes.
I know better than to do
We
that
have
now.
learned.
But they always bring up, oh, Heather made those cookies like that. Oh, they were so good. Has she ever made those again? Can she make them again? Can you make them? Like, so you are the macaron queen, according to my children.
I'm glad the memory has lived on. I'm glad because I may never make that. Who knows? Maybe I'll never make them again. It's a multi-day commitment because you make them one day, they have to cure, then you make the filling, then you fill them, then they have to sit, and then you
That's right.
Yeah.
It's not no quick thing, but it was a lot of fun.
I mean, good for you that you read that recipe and then decided to do it.
Yeah.
Because I would have been changing this
Yeah.
completely. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, that seems to be my favorite kind to do, is something that kind of scares the pants off me. And I don't know if I can actually make it happen, but I'm determined to try. Those are the ones I like the best.
And then let's just say this because we have to say this. Our favorite recipe of all time that came out of Three Kitchens is, let's all say it together.
Salted lemons?
Lemon.
Like, is she... And it's not the episode that was the favorite. It's the recipe. It's the product, because we have put those in so many things.
Everything.
So many things, yeah.
Yeah.
It has become a staple in our fridge, right?
Yep.
In our kitchen. And that is definitely an episode to visit because that is extremely simple.
Yeah.
And yields a lot of power. So
Yes. And none of us had ever even, I think, heard of it.
No, and I heard a recommendation recently from a chef who said, and how if you're not using up your jar of salted lemons in time, I mean, I don't understand how you wouldn't use it in time.
I have a jar that has like a quarter lemon left in there that doesn't look so hot now. I might just toss that out.
But he said that you can take that salted lemon mixture after a while and just blend it up and freeze it. And then you can make little cubes of frozen salted lemons. So the salted lemon can live on and on and on in your freezer.
Oh, I'm going to try that.
have we ever used salted lemons for any cocktails? Why haven't we?
Not yet is going to be my answer.
That's what we need to do this summer.
I'll leave that in your hands.
And so the adventure with salted lemons continues.
Oh, it definitely does. This episode is brought to you by the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. This podcast shout out goes to It's a Conspiracy. Andrew, Greg, and Charlie discuss the beliefs behind selected conspiracy theories, alternative accounts, legends, myths, and more. I listened to an episode a while back in which they debated the theory around the cilantro gene. You know, that one that causes a person to think cilantro tastes like soap? Well, I just want to say my co-host Erin might strongly disagree with calling that a conspiracy. The cilantro aversion is real, you guys. They also do a little segment about what they're drinking, which I appreciate, for some great Alberta brewery and distillery recommendations. So if you're a fan of weird news and wacky stories of all kinds, as I am, go listen to It's a Conspiracy. And while you're there, check out all the other shows at albertapodcastnetwork.com. So that's maybe a good lead into where we wanted to talk about some updates, some recipes.
Yeah. In season 1, in the 10th episode, I made a 1-pan chicken winner was the name. And I made a 1-pan chicken. I didn't even realize this until right now, but it also had the salted lemons in it.
There you go.
Nice.
And so it was a Greek and lemon chicken and potatoes recipe that I had used. The recipe overall was okay, but it wasn't my favorite. So I've gone back and I found a different method that uses similar ingredients, and it is a recipe from allrecipes.com, and it's called Greek lemon chicken and potatoes. And so in the original episode, we talked about you boiled the potatoes partially before adding them to the pan. You fried the chicken in the pan before putting it in the oven. There was a lot of pre-chicken going into the oven work that made it more than 1 pan. So the original recipe was a bit of a lie. It wasn't a 1-pan chicken.
Gotcha.
And I'm shaking my fist at it angrily, since you don't get the pleasure of seeing me do this. I'll let you know that. So I went and found another recipe, and I've adapted it to a whole bunch of other recipes that I also like to make bone-in skin on chicken with. And so in this recipe, you put the chicken and the potatoes into a bowl. You make a sauce, and you mix it all together with your hands, and then you place the chicken in the pan, you dump out your potatoes and the sauce, and you put it all in 1 pan, and then it sits in your oven for 40 minutes. And you stir it about halfway through so that the bottom doesn't get browner than the top potatoes that are in there. I find that the chicken is much more tender, the skin crisps up, and altogether it's a great weeknight meal because it really only takes an hour, and it really only is 1 pan.
Nice.
I have adapted a Piri chicken recipe that I love, and I'm going to write out the recipe and put it in our show notes.
Okay.
Yeah, nice.
You don't have to pre-boil anything. You don't have to pre-fry your chicken. It still turns out crispy, and I love this recipe so much more.
Awesome.
That would be my best update of all the recipes that, I continue to make and have played around with. I definitely like this one a lot better. So
Good. I'm going to try that one.
So, sorry, when you say it's in the show notes, it'll be in Buzzsprout's show note?
Or on your podcast player, when you play, there's a description that goes with each episode. That's called show notes. Or sometimes it says details. You can just click that if you're not sure.
So I'll write out my recipe, and I'll also link for the Greek lemon chicken and potatoes, because that method can be applied to anything. I make my chicken cacciatore that way now. I'm just loving the cooking in the cast iron. That's my favorite. I know Sarah's been playing with cake.
Yeah, I've been playing with cake. So what episode was this? I forgot to write this down.
Season 2, episode 22. Oh, this was 22.
Oh, yes.
Two day.
So in season 2, episode 22, 222, which
February
was, I think,
2nd,
out on February
22nd.
the 2nd, 2022.
Something like that. Yep.
All right.
How did that work out for us, by the way?
That was weird.
The fact that our 22nd episode of the season also aired on the 22nd of the 2 of the 22.
Yeah, that was some luck happening there. But Sarah had a winner of a recipe.
Well, yeah, and I mean, this was another weird thing that happened. I made cake. I baked cake, but I ended up calling a good friend of mine who knows how to bake cakes so that I could bake this cake with her, and it was called Onde Onde, and it turned out so amazing that she came over the following weekend and we made it again.
Yeah, that was so funny. She's like, Irene's coming back and we're making it again. I was like, what? We're like the next week?
Sarah's going into the cake making business.
No, it was funny because I had messaged her saying, oh, we should totally make that again one day. She's like, so when am I coming over, Saturday or Sunday? I'm like, I don't know, you pick. I guess we're doing this. But it was kind of nice making it again because someone like me who doesn't make cakes very often, it's kind of nice to do a recipe like that when you're not very used to doing something again so that it kind of sticks in your brain. And there were a few things that we changed in the recipe that we use from Bake with Paws, which is paws.com. And most of it was very straightforward. In the episode we talk about not using the concentrated pandan juice for the flavoring, but we used a essence that we bought from the store, Lucky Supermarket. And when you whisk it, one thing that I don't think I mentioned was you've seen the consistency of cake batter. It's quite flowy. Well, this one wasn't. It was very stretchy. And just remember, don't think about adding more liquid to make it more creamy or whatnot, because you're going to put the meringue in later. And when you put the meringue in later, it actually looks like a cake batter. So that was one thing that just don't get thrown off.
Yeah.
The other thing that we added to this recipe, or we changed about it, was to the buttercream, we added 2 tablespoons of coconut cream. So we added the pandan essence, and we added the 2 tablespoons of coconut cream. You must do this for your cake. You must.
Interesting.
Because it just upped it for the flavor. And it was just so even more exotic.
Right.
And so those are the 2 things that I would change about this. And I think everything else was mentioned in that episode. The recipe is pretty straightforward. The only thing that I would change, of course, is using the pandan essence instead of the extract or the concentrated juice, which you can try to make. I just don't think you're going to yield as much as you think you are.
Yeah.
They may not be as fresh as the ones that she's using in Asia.
Yes.
So it might not yield as much moisture. So if you're going there and you want to give it a try, then get more of the fresh stuff, or just get the essence.
Are you going to grow it in your garden this year, Sarah?
No, I'm not growing anything.
She's not even humoring you. She's like, no.
I felt really shut down right there. I just...
The only thing I'm going to try to have is flowers in pots away from my puppy.
Not amused.
So I guess that's a no, listeners. Sarah is not growing anything. Hard no.
With this recipe, what we're going to do next, we're going to make the same cake, but instead of putting pandan in it, we're going to do it with mango. So look out for pictures. I don't know when we're doing that, but I'm hoping Irene will want to come over again.
So every time my doorbell rings, it might be you dropping off mango cake is what that tells me.
Perhaps.
So I'm just going to expect it every time.
Yeah, let's just put that out there now, because when she made the cake the second time, she didn't share it with us.
That's right.
We didn't get the improved version.
Yeah, we didn't know what the better part was.
It to other people. I had promised it to other people.
Okay, we can't just let that go. We can't.
Okay, all right. I'll make it again. I know now how to.
Excellent.
If you're not going to grow your own pandan, the least you can do is bake us another cake.
The least I could do.
Come on, Sarah.
All right, I owe you a cake. I promise.
All right.
So Heather, what are you
going to make for us again?
Well, not just, I did make it actually. It wasn't my recipe originally, but Erin made empanadas in episode, I think it was really early on. I can't remember which.
7.
Erin made empanadas, Argentinian empanadas, episode 6.
Nope, episode 7.
Fuck.
7.
Episode 7.
Season 1,
episode 7. Erin made empanadas. The recipe from her favorite, maybe not favorite, but one of her favorite celebrity chefs, Francis Mallman. And we had a good laugh during the episode about his cookbook and his appearance on, was it Chef's Table or some
that's right,
documentary, which, I mean, he's fantastic. His food is fantastic, but he is an eccentric, kind of a weirdo, which we love. We love the weirdos. And so we had a lot of fun talking about
Do we want to say weirdo? Do we want to say eccentric? guy, so we don't have to put the word weirdo on there. But if he listens, he's like, F you, freaking
Let your freak flag fly, Francis. And I challenge anyone to say what I just said, because that was a lot of F's.
Yeah. I somehow think he'd be okay with it.
I feel
he
like
seems extremely
he'd be
confident.
proud of it.
I was going to say, I don't think he has any confidence issues, so I'm pretty sure that...
Yeah. I don't think he would give a shit what we're saying about it. Anyway, so Erin originally made the empanadas from Francis Mallman's cookbook.
Yeah.
And we've all made it since then, at least once, maybe more. But when I went to make them, so I made them for our New Year's Eve episode as an appetizer. We made appies and drinks at New Year's, and I made them with chicken. So I made a different filling, which was really great. It was like chicken and olive, and was really fantastic. And I kind of adapted that based on a recipe that I found, and then added some of Francis's, like the egg and the olives into it. Anyway,
Heather did what she does best and MacGyvered it.
I just kind of, I'm just winging it and just making stuff up.
So good.
But in the process, we discovered that it seemed as though I had used a different dough recipe because it came out a little different. And I couldn't for the life of me remember which one, because on foodandwine.com, they have 2 Francis Mallman traditional Argentine empanada recipes. One is beef and onion and one is beef and olive. And I was like, I don't remember which one I used. I'm like, the Francis one. And Erin's like, there's actually 2 recipes. And one of them is the same as the book and the other one is not.
Yeah.
And I could not remember which one I had used. So I made these again recently because I wanted to be able to address it.
Yeah.
I actually didn't make empanadas, but I made the dough and we made like calzones with it, which is essentially just a large empanada with different stuff inside.
I didn't see one show up at my door. Did you, Erin?
No, I'm also...
It wasn't... I'll tell you why you didn't. I'll tell you why you didn't get one at your door. Just be glad you didn't get one at your door. You be happy. Be happy. Okay, so one of the recipes, the difference between them is the amount of lard. And in our case, we used butter, but in Francis's recipe, it's lard. One of them has a 1/4 cup of lard, 1 tablespoon of salt. That's another difference. The other one, this one has 2 cups of lard and 1/3 of a cup of salt.
Whoa.
Okay.
And a lot more dough?
About an extra cup of flour in there. Oh. So I kept saying, which one should I do? Which one should I do? What do you guys think I should do? And I'm sure I was just a pain in the ass about this because I was like, I don't know which one I don't know which one I used before. So and Sarah kept saying, more butter, more butter. So she's like, it's a no-brainer. And with this kind of empanada dough, you melt your fat into water and with your salt, and you melt it all down, dissolve the salt, whatever, and you let it sit and cool. And then you put that, you may use that as your liquid with your flour and you make up your dough. And I was like, this seems like a lot of salt, but I don't know, it's a lot of butter too. So I don't know. It was the worst dough.
Oh no.
It was so fucking salty. I could hardly eat it. It was awful.
No.
And it says in the instructions that the dough will be greasy. Well, that's an understatement of the year. It is
it was too much?
Too much butter. It is like greasy and slimy and really hard to work with. And I knew as soon as I started trying to mix it together, I was like, this is not the recipe I used. That dough was great. This one is like awful and slippery. And I was like, who thought this was a good idea? But I thought, okay, but maybe.
I guess I did.
Yeah, maybe it'll still be good. So when it comes to eat, and I'm like, wow, why is this so salty? And it makes a lot, right? So we had extras that I thought I would put in the kids' lunches. No, tossed. It was so bad.
Oh, darn it.
And there's nothing you can do. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I don't taste raw dough to see what it tastes like. So I didn't know it was salty till we baked it in the oven, and here out comes our dinner. And
so your suggestion is to use the one with less butter in it.
Yeah.
And the less butter one is called?
Use the one that is beef and onion empanadas.
Oh, man.
There you go. There's
just the one with less salt.
Less salt, way less salt. And much less butter. Yep. There you go. So we still love Francis and all his
I'm
eccentricities.
really sorry that you had to wait a pound of butter and make a gross dough.
And my family was trying to be so polite, like, well, it's not too bad.
Aren't
And
they lovely when that
I was
happens?
like,
Yeah. Okay, so now we get to my favorite part. More funny, goofy stuff.
what have you got?
So everything about what I picked for this episode had something to do with friends, good friends who have taught me how to cook. And that's something I've enjoyed very much about season 2, especially. So we had Irene helping me with the cake, and we had Auntie Pushpa who came in and helped us with our Diwali episode, which was absolutely delicious and fun. We got to go shopping in a store that we really were not very familiar with. So it was a good thing she was around us in some way, because I think we needed some guidance there. In the Diwali episode, which is episode 6 of season 2, I was sort of describing Auntie Pushpa to you, told you what I thought was so special about her. So let's take a listen. Anyway, Auntie Pushpa has culture that's kind of going away, to have someone who works and then comes back and then cooks everything from scratch. But my parents' generation, it started going away. So it's very rare to see someone like Auntie Pushpa still kind of keeping these traditions alive.
She does all the things.
Auntie Pushpa does all the things, and she does them well. And she knits, and she makes clothes for people, and she just does it all. And she's a fantastic cook. So thank you, Auntie Pushpa, for that delicious guidance for that episode. That was fun to do. And
that was fun.
And Erin making goat curry was like,
that was
I was
so
blown
fun.
away.
I loved having the opportunity to learn from someone else.
This is my last one that I picked, and I got to cook with my friend John. My friend Paul. Oh my God, I'm such an idiot. Oh my God, I'm such a dork. My friend Paul, I gave him a call. We cook over Zoom or the phone or whatever all the time. And so I said, would you do this episode with me? And he taught me how to make something called roti john, but like with the extra special twist. I ended up editing this clip down because this was an hour and a half talking between him and me. But at one point, he said something in this episode that he didn't mean to say, and it was such an awkward silence before both of us started laughing.
Once you cook this, you just got to beat the meat in it, as bad as it sounds.
Don't worry, we've said this.
So you beat the meat in the mixture.
You don't realize how that awkward pause right after he said it, like everyone went silent and was like, ah.
Did he just say beat the meat?
I said the meat. Again, thanks, John. This season 2 has been great.
Paul,
thanks. What is wrong with me? Thanks, Paul. Jesus.
All of my fun clips are about me being a nerd. Because I just like learning everything.
There you go.
I like learning it all. And I think that I showed that best with the first episode that I took on, which if it doesn't jog your memory, I can see the horror in Heather's face.
It's not horror, it's amusement, because I loved it.
This is one of my favorites. Of my favorites. Okay.
The fail from, not the fail, but the process of me learning how to make a mayo. And I described this extremely long process where my mayonnaise keeps breaking. I've wasted a lot of energy and effort on whisking this all by hand.
And we make fun of you for not using a machine.
And I get raked right over the coals from everybody else telling me that a normal person would use
that machine. Yeah.
And what do I come out and say at the end? For the sanity of myself and for my arms, I need to walk away and reflect on everything I learned. Because when I started this process, I didn't know what a broken mayonnaise looks like. I know what that looks like really good now. I can identify the fuck out of that. I'm not going to keep whisking it. So, at one point, Heather makes fun because Sarah explains to me that a red chili and a green chili are the same chili. Is that the same thing? A green chili and a red chili are the same pepper at different stages?
Yeah, it is. Depending on the actual pepper, right?
Erin literally just looked like the little mind blown emoji.
And I've also learned how to say Worcestershire from Heather. Worcestershire sauce. Did I win that time?
Worcestershire sauce?
Worcestershire sauce.
Yeah, just mumble it real quick, and then you're pretty much get Worcestershire.
Worcestershire.
Yeah, just kind of like Worcestershire. Yeah. And I've since learned another way to say it, which is wash your sister.
Yeah.
Wash your sister.
Your wash your sister sauce.
I love that one.
It's better than saying Worcestershire, because I
Yes.
was saying that and I got a lot of flack for that. We all learned something new to go with our food vocabulary in a physical way when I attempted to make yet another persimmon recipe. Okay, so why don't you talk about the experience that...
Okay, so in episode 2.13, season 2, episode 13, I made beef Wellington. But at the beginning of the episode, Erin told us about how she attempted again. She really wanted, we've talked about the pudding. She really wanted to get what is the flavor of that persimmon, which we were still missing. And so she attempted a persimmon jam. And it was one of the funniest things that I think
the funniest and fuzziest.
it was so funny, that whole conversation, because Erin, you can see her face. She's just waiting to hear what we're going to say about it. And Sarah has this really politely, I didn't really care for it or something. She had something to say about it. And she goes, and that's all I'm going to say. And I was like, what are you talking about? Why is that all you're going to say? So here's a little clip. What? That's all you have to say?
That's all I have to
Are
say.
you kidding?
Okay, I don't want to say anything else.
Why has
The
why has this not been said yet? I don't know. I took on the tip of like a butter knife, I just scooped it out. First of all, obviously there's a shit ton of pectin in there, because
Yes.
that is a solid jam, my friends. It is like jellied, and then so I put it in my mouth and I was like, what the fuck did I just put in my mouth? That's what I texted Erin, because I felt like it was, never mind the taste, it tastes good. The feeling of it, I felt like buzz just sprouted on my tongue and the roof of my mouth. It felt furry for like 20 minutes after I had this little taste of it. It was just really, it was so funny. But Sarah was trying so hard to be like polite. She didn't want to hurt Erin's feelings. There was no saving feelings on that one. It was just all around weird.
It was all around miserable.
Yeah. It was so funny.
When I revisited this, I actually found some detailed information about this. And it is called the astringent variety. And so you cannot eat that persimmon until it is fully ripened.
Oh.
If you open it up when it is not soft or hard, apparently the tannins will just like make your mouth.
Okay.
Oh.
Everyone describes it as like, don't ever open it up and eat it until it is as soft as a water balloon, is what they describe.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Everyone just said, don't do it. Everything I read was like, don't do it. It'll be astringent. We had no idea what that really meant.
Nope.
No one said
We
fuzzy.
had zero clue. We just knew you shouldn't do that. And apparently the persimmons that I made the jam with just weren't water baggy enough, because
Water baggy stuff.
we experienced what astringent it. It is fur sprouting on your tongue. It is like you have started chewing on a velvet cloth. It is the worst feeling
Oh my God.
that you
it
can
was
ever imagine
so
in your
funny.
mouth.
It was so great. And I just remember Erin's face as we were recording that, because she was just like she didn't know what to say, and she was just waiting to hear what we were going to say about it. And she was,
At first I was a little bit nervous when you said you took a spoonful. I was like, oh God. What did I do to Heather? She's never going to trust me again.
I'll never forget it. It was so fun. I love that.
So I think my favorite thing has been all the things that we have learned this year through doing all these experiments. Like this has been a year of experimenting, I think.
For sure.
It has. Everything I wanted to mention, including mentions of famous chefs. And my favorite thing about this podcast, in all honesty, has been cooking with Irene, Auntie Pushpa, and you guys. That's who I've learned cooking from most, because there are things that I have never eaten, never thought about. There are both of you are the two that I message going, what do I do here? Because I don't understand this. And you guys always have your tips and your tricks and your ideas sometimes if you haven't made those recipes before. And I really, honestly, this has really broadened my horizons for my cooking.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it's been really, really fun.
And hopefully for the listeners too. I hope the listeners have learned some things and tried some things. I mean, we don't know because they never tell us. We never hear anything from them.
You guys never talk to us. You never talk back to us, guys.
Tell us it sucks.
We're always talking to you.
Tell us you tried it and it was furry. I don't know. Tell us something. I know. I was thinking about all the things that you guys have introduced me to that I'd never eaten before, like pickled garlic scapes. Oh, I can't wait to make those this year.
Those were great. Right. Yeah. Woohoo.
I'm going to be drinking Caesars with those all summer.
And I'm not gardening, so if you want to send me some or pickle them and then give them to me, I would much appreciate it.
And another thing was the salt cured egg yolk, which I still have not made, but I wanted to, because that was one of those things that was like, wow, I'd never even imagined that.
And I really enjoed the short cure. Yeah. And you know what? Now I feel like I want to make that again.
I bought shrimp.
That's right.
I had to ask you guys why it was so important to devein it, because I didn't realize that the vein was not a vein.
Shrimp poop.
You have learned so many things. I think we all have, for sure.
Yeah, that's been the best fun of this. And I think if there's anything to take home is just try it. The worst that can happen is it can be furry in your mouth.
That was the worst. And it's okay.
And in all honesty,
you can laugh about it.
Most of the recipes we've done are not extreme recipes. There have been a few that have been okay. That's kind of, a few days of work and stress. But most of them are easy to make, and some of them are easier than others, right?
Just don't always believe when Sarah says it's easy.
Yeah.
I think we've covered that well enough.
The simple.
Super simple. It's like, no.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. It's been a great year with you ladies. I am looking forward to more crazy recipes, more awesome recipes.
Yes. So we can keep tempting people, and maybe one day they'll tell us if they've made something. They'll give us some feedback. But actually, other people are helping us out, because we're doing a few guest appearances. We've been a guest on another podcast, and we'll be doing that again coming up. So it's a lot of fun.
I'm happy to be bringing more kitchens into the fold, because we're going to get new ideas, new methods, new recipes. I can't wait to
personalities.
Hear what everyone's going to share with us. So because we're sick of each of us, so we need something new.
Speak for yourself. So rude. I'm not sick of you guys at all.
No, I'm not sick of you guys, but it is fun when you add a new dynamic in once in a while. It is nice interviewing and talking to some of these people, and
it's been great connecting through food. So
that's it. That's our first year. That's a wrap on.
Thank you for being there with us, being here with us.
Yes.
And there, everywhere.
And there. Yes.
Really.
Everywhere.
You can take us all over the place.
And don't go anywhere.
And
don't go nowhere.
Keep downloading. Keep listening.
Stay with us.
Yeah, just give us a little.
Go find us and like us and share us on your
Give us a review.
Players.
It would be so fun to see.
Yeah, I think we're starting to sound desperate, guys. I think it might be time to end this episode.
All right.
Well, happy anniversary, you two.
Yes, happy anniversary.
Are we going to wave like we usually do?
Bye.
We always wave. Forgetting that nobody actually can see our wave.
It's okay. We're waving at each other.
That's right.
And now for the fine print. We at Three Kitchens gratefully acknowledge we are telling these stories in the traditional territories of the Treaty 7 nations in southern Alberta and the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. We honor the rich tradition of oral storytellers on this land who have come before us. You can find pictures and recipe links on Instagram and Facebook at Three Kitchens Podcast. If you like and subscribe on your podcast player, that helps more people find us.
whole year already. Where did the time go?